1. Welcome to Red Thread After Reports, a new bonus series that we're doing exclusively for our membership platforms, apart from this episode, which is, of course, going out to everyone to kind of show what these episodes are like.
What to expect.
They're going to be, what to expect. They're going to be more loose, off the hip, shot from the hip, breaking news kind of stuff, I guess, whatever's trending that week, whatever we want to talk about that week, still within the realm of Red Thread. Jordan, what are we hitting this week?
Our feelings.
Oh, that's good. You finally coming clean with me, are you?
Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, that's what we're doing. We are discussing that. And the reason that we are discussing it is because there was quote-unquote massive disclosure. And I suppose just by the sheer volume of it was. There's many ways to interpret the word massive. I choose to interpret my penis size, for instance, as massive, even though some would argue that it is not. There you go. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is the my penis of disclosures. Huh?
I was going to say there's also many ways to define the word disclosure as well as transparency. A lot of these words have various different meanings, I suppose, which is it's never been more evident than over these last few days, given
ironically,
what has
transparency
transpired.
Isn't very transparent. Yes.
Yes, very, very strange that. And also disclosure, and also Epstein. Maybe Epstein isn't even Epstein. I'm not sure anymore. We'll find out. We'll define. We'll spend the entire episode defining words. Yes. So why are we talking about this?
Debates. Yeah.
Why are we talking about Epstein yet again for about the 15th time over the Red Thread time span of the last year? Why are we talking about it today specifically? What has happened in the last few days?
Well, the Department of Justice deadline that was mandated to it by Congress. This was a bipartisan bill. It's very hard in the United States to get a bipartisan agreement on virtually anything. I would imagine even if you talk about changing the flag color, one of them would be for it. You know, like it's everything. Everything is hard. This was bipartisan.
To some degree, right? I do want to, to some degree bipartisan. It's not like both parties completely came together. It's just that there were
They got enough votes.
They got enough votes, which means enough Republicans and I guess Democrats agreed on it to make it happen. Yeah. There were still holdouts for sure.
And lo and behold, they did do a disclosure. They didn't do a disclosure to anywhere near the legal requirement. They redacted a bunch of things that they were not allowed to do in purview of the congressional order. And there was about 10% of what they were supposed to disclose. And they said, well, we'll be releasing more of it in the coming months. Stay tuned.
Right.
To which most of Congress is quite reluctantly like, well, you've already broken the law, so...
Yeah, why not? Okay, why not continue breaking the law? I
don't know what we can do at this point.
What are we going to do, I guess? It was meant to happen today. You've only hit like 10% of the legal requirement for what you were meant to do, and now every second that ticks over is obviously illegal. So I guess we've done all that we can. As the most powerful government in the world. But basically, yes, the legislation that was introduced by the bipartisan group, I think it was signed in like a few months ago, right? And they set the December 19th deadline that basically said, December 19th is Epstein Transparency Day. All of the files pertaining to Epstein need to be released by that day or on that day by the Department of Justice. And they're talking tens of thousands of files that needed to be collated and to some degree censored to protect victims' privacy by the Department of Justice and then released. But they did make the distinction, right, in the original law that Donald Trump signed a month ago. They did make the distinction that the censoring of the files needed to be what was it? I think it needed to be shown to Congress at least, like why these things were censored in the way that they were censored. And also they needed a summary of any redactions made and a list of all government officials and politically exposed individuals named or referenced in the published materials to still be made available to Congress, which from what I've understood, they have not done at all. They have not followed the specific law other than to release some files on the date that they were required to release some of the files. But they've also since said, we've got tens of thousands of more files that we will slowly drip feed you over the next few weeks. And again, all of that was meant to happen today. Well, on the December 19th, right?
Yeah. And that hasn't. And as you pointed out, they were supposed to disclose all of that, and they seem to have the same. It's all very Donald Trump real estate agent days, isn't it? It's the watch this space, big things coming. That seems to be what they're going for. And then you look at what they have released, in inverted commas, and I was watching this reporter go through, this is every single page that is completely redacted. As in, there isn't a single word on it. It is, when you photocopy it out, it is a black piece of paper.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the mystery thickens. It's more mysterious than just saying, we're not going to disclose anything. There you go. There it is. What are you talking about? That's the piece of paper. It's incredible.
It is incredible. I don't necessarily understand. I mean, I get that they were legally required to do this because of obviously Congress and the House of Representatives came together to push that legislation through, which means that they were legally required to do something at this point. But ultimately, they're still breaking the law. So what even is the point of even pretending to do something then? Because if the ultimate thing is that you're breaking the law by not, performing to the full aspect of the law itself, what's even the point? What's even the point of doing any of this? You're still breaking the law.
Well, that is a very good point. I don't know why. I think it's just because everything in the Donald Trump administration is kind of just like a PR move, and they can spin it amongst their support base as it has, tried. I don't think they will, because obviously nothing seems to satiate his base when it comes to this. But
I think you're right. I think this has. Obviously the Democrats have weaponized this to some degree as well, but this particular Transparency Day, due to the fact that it's the government's Department of Justice releasing the files, and of course they are just an arm of the Donald Trump administration currently, it has been weaponized by them under Donald Trump's purview, of course, and we're seeing that in the files released in this this tranche of disclosures, where it's like literally all just files of Bill Clinton with Epstein, which of course we all knew that Bill Clinton was heavily associated with Epstein. Of course, we've always said that. We've always known that like they were heavily linked, and of course we would like that information out there. But of course, Donald Trump was also heavily linked with Epstein, and that's where the questions currently stem from: is how closely linked is the current sitting president, and how connected to this sex trafficking network that Epstein, commandeered or commanded. Like how closely linked is Donald Trump to that? And there have been no files related to Donald Trump released in this disclosure day at all. And we know in advance, like through leaked reports and other pictures that have come out, that there are hundreds of files and references related to Donald Trump in these files. Isn't it a little bit suspicious that like absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump came out in this information? Even if it was just like a meeting set up between the two, or just another picture of them hanging out at an event. None of that. It's all just Bill Clinton.
Did you hear this? I don't know if this is confirmed though, but this goes even further. Apparently there are pictures that have already been leaked or are on public record for whatever reason that are in this release of documents, but Donald Trump has been edited out of them, or he has been blurred.
I did not know about that. I did not know that he has been digitally removed from photos. I wouldn't be surprised, given that we know that they are associated.
Digitally removed? It could be digitally removed, but I'm pretty sure it was like he is blurred, like one of the quote-unquote victims are, because he is the real victim of this.
Yeah, of course, he's a victim. He would absolutely spin it that way. I would 100% believe it, considering one of the files that slipped through the cracks is a picture, and this was released on the 19th, a picture of Epstein's desk, open drawer, and in the desk is a bunch of photographs, and one of the photographs is of Donald Trump with a bunch of women, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe. Regardless, there's a picture of Donald Trump in Jeffrey Epstein's desk. I don't know why he would have a picture of Donald Trump in his fucking desk if they weren't closely associated. I don't have random pictures of random people that I don't know in my, in my desk or anything like that. But yeah, it's you can just kind of see Donald Trump. It's not the focus of the picture that they took of the desk or anything like that, but you can see him at the bottom of that. Guess what? That picture, that file, mysteriously disappeared from the website immediately as soon as they noticed that Donald Trump was in there.
Interesting.
Disappeared.
So they are redacting things that have already been redacted.
That was confirmed. 19 files as well, along with that file, were removed from the disclosure after it had already been put out there. They removed it from the justice.gov Epstein library website, which is where all the files are hosted.
Government, isn't it? It's like botch their botched job.
I know, it's incredible. But then, so they got caught with their pants down due to that, and then they had to come out. Sorry, it was 16 files. They had to come out and issue a statement where they explained that the photo was temporarily removed for review by the Southern District of New York at like a judge's request. And basically, after the review, they determined there were no Epstein victims depicted in the photo. So then they restored the image to the website with no alteration or retraction, which is what they say. But I feel like it's probably more so that people noticed too heavily and they were like, fuck, we can't get away with this. Just put it back up there. That's my gut feeling. Like, why else? Why else would they do that?
To win. Yes, exactly.
It's an extremely bizarre turn of events where they remove a Donald Trump photo. Like, honestly, not even an incriminating Donald Trump photo. It wasn't even that incriminating. It was. I think we had seen the photo before. It's just a photo of him with not some children. I think they were models or something. But regardless, it's Donald Trump, and I guess it shows the association between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, which is clearly not what they're trying to focus on in this, this release, which is primarily focused around Democratic figures being connected with Epstein, which is what all the files pertain to, really, so far.
It's just very it's a bad way of going about it, isn't it? What you would do is you would release a couple of mentions of Donald Trump that are like that.
Exactly.
Quite innocent. That's the way to do it. Completely redact him and then redact what you have redacted. Take that out. And then also on top of that, why would you just chuck out nothing but Bill Clinton, which also jeopardizes the Department of Justice's course of how they are going about investigating people. It like completely contradicts their stated way that they're going around this investigation anyway. And so it just shows that none of this has anything to do with following the law or being concerned about the Epstein files at all. It is entirely within the purview of PR, all of it. Which is entirely. You could make the. You could. What I'm always baffled about with this cover up of this administration trying to cover it up is you could do such a better job at it than you are.
Well, the issue is that this administration specifically, I think the Biden administration knew how to handle this. And I do think that there are heavy, well, clearly, Bill Clinton, there are heavy Democratic figures linked up in this in negative ways. And I think that's why the Biden administration didn't even play with this. They knew that, actually engaging in this would be damaging to both parties, really, and the entire faith in the, the government and things like that. So I don't think that they played with it nearly as much as the Republicans did leading up to the election, because all we heard pre-election was Donald Trump and everyone else going, where are the Epstein files? Release the Epstein files, so on and so on. And now that they're actually elected, they realize, fuck, we've actually got to do something. we've actually got to deliver on this promise that we made, stupidly knowing that, we're just as implicated as they are.
Yeah, but just do the same thing. Oh, we're putting this on investigation. We're currently investigating this. You just say that for the next decade. We're currently investigating this. This is a very complicated case. Yeah. This
could have easily have gone the way of JFK conspiracies, for example. You just kick the can down the road, basically.
Keep kicking it down. It's so silly. I don't know. It was their lust to try and bait that conspiracy wing of their voter base. It really came back to bite them massively.
I also think that they, like the way that they've doled this out, they realized, I think that they thought that they could get more wins out of it. Again, like the Bill Clinton stuff and shit like that. They could look like they were releasing stuff while also hiding all of the, the negative shit that pertain to their individuals. I feel like there's a sense of that, but they have butchered it to such an incredible degree where now it's just so visibly obvious that not all the files are coming out for some suspicious reason.
I'll tell you what is very interesting about the disclosure, though. Did you see this angle to it, Jackson? They were discussing that what these disclosures do is...
Do. Very serious conversation.
Yeah, you're right. This is an important point to get across. I did put the same word intercession twice.
Yeah, you walked into that
and it
one.
sounded naughty.
It did.
You know, you got to be held accountable for these things. And doo-doo is a form of disclosure. Yeah,
you are welcome for holding you accountable.
Someone needs to do it. I don't feel like it has to come from a friend, but nonetheless, it's nice to know that you will.
Everyone in the comments, make sure that you let him know that you too noticed that he said doo-doo.
Well, yeah, but don't say it if you're just trying to be cool and that you didn't notice it before.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
Afterwards doing your like post-nut clarity. Oh, I knew. I hate it when people do that. I heard that this puts a lot of pieces in the puzzle of how Jeffrey Epstein actually got rich. And that's interesting.
Okay, so what is that theory?
Well, it's more... This is where a lot of the hardcore investigative journalism along this has gone, which is trying to piece together how Jeffrey Epstein became so influential and rich in the first place. That's what's been mostly engaging to serious journalists on this matter. And I've got to say, it is undeniably extremely interesting because, go on. You were clearing your mouth.
I was just going to say, like, that's the part that I've always found the most interesting because I'm just operating under the assumption that, everyone powerful pretty much is implicated in this. It's just a foregone conclusion to me, just with how they're acting and also just how powerful people have existed throughout time. Like, there's been a prevailing notion of they get so greedy and hedonistic that they do take advantage of young women, so young children. So that, like, probably a lot of these powerful people across the globe are engaging in that kind of stuff. So that entire part isn't even surprising. Obviously, it's not even mind-blowing or revelatory or anything like that. And I do want that information to come out, of course, but I'm way more interested in the aspect of how this network even came to exist in the first place. How did Epstein get chosen or not chosen? How did he come to, reach financial power where he had this much power over so many different powerful people across the globe? And of course, what are the implications of that? Who may have been controlling him and also setting up the network? We've talked about the Israeli government and intelligence agencies in the past potentially being connected to this. It seems pretty.
They don't just pluck someone out of thin air.
Yeah, exactly.
To become an asset, you kind of have to earn it. You have to actually be an asset in the first place. And well, it all started with him starting off as a in the financial world. God, I'm going to get this wrong now because this was a while that I was reading it back. Where did he work again? Bears and Stearns, something like that.
Yeah. Epstein.
And he, when he was working there, apparently did a bunch of things that really equated to insider trading, theft, more or less. Fraud. Really, really obvious scams, like a kind of fraud and all this. But he was able to get away with it purely because he started out there linking the senior management up with women and, like fun getaways. And he was just very, very good at socializing from the beginning. And so his whole career is sort of getting very good at micro trading favors and leveraging someone else's wealth and power and esteem off of someone else. So he starts off really small. It's very interesting. He starts off really small with, say, let's use Donald Trump as an example, an associate of an associate of Donald Trump. And he'll use that associate of an associate of Donald Trump to meet the associate. And every single time he does this, he says, I can link this other rich and powerful person up with you. Really what he was sort of a human Rolodex. He had this incredible ability, apparently, to be either genuinely or appear curious about anyone's little autistic interest and sit around and bounce it off that person, making them comfortable enough for him to kind of have like a casual acquaintance with them. And that's
so he knew enough about these subjects, knew enough about the characters that he was, meeting with and wanted something out of. He knew enough about them, their interests, to at least seem interesting to that person, to at least seem like someone that they would, get along with. He was like very knowledgeable about how to read people and how to manipulate people.
Exactly. But he was able to do that in the way that he was micro-trading people as well. So when it came to really interesting scientists, really interesting university professors, interesting celebrities, that all went above the same thing. It was kind of like this very... He kind of broke down capital, not just in terms of like a finance thing. Like he understood what made people tick and what people wanted. And he was very good at connecting people up with that. Really good at just exchanging favors. Huh?
It turns out that he was pretty lucky in the sense that it seems that most of the powerful people that he was interested in gaining power over, for example, also wanted the same thing as him, which turns out to be young girls. Unfortunately, it seems like they did have that.
This is what I think is probably something that is definitely obviously an element of this. But there also seems to be like a huge amount of financial crime that happened underneath this, like a massive amount for him to get to this point. That's interesting in itself because that implicates a lot of people in terms of finances, and there was probably like a bunch of Ponzi schemes that were set up because of this. Yeah,
he did get a lot of his money. At least this is how we understand it. I think he got a lot of his money from. I think it was Larry. Was it Larry Summers? Who was it? There was a prominent, wealthy individual. It was Larry something, right? Epstein.
That was his big whale. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Larry Summers. But regardless, there was a big whale that he had that basically it seems like funded his life. But I could never understand why they were even connected in the first place. And it's potentially the way you just said it. Like he was able to connect himself to Larry Summers and other powerful people and basically use the information that he had on them in order to gain financial wealth through them, which of course made him even more powerful.
Yes, and this is the whole thing. I think he was just very good at reflecting rich and powerful people's ultimate desires. So, secretaries that would hang around him, where obviously, because anything that's in the media, always you hear, like, sex sells. Anything that's a sex scandal is always going to hit the front pages. But anything that anybody was interested in, anything that they wanted as a connection. So, for instance, there'd be a lot of scientists that would want... access to like labs and shit like that. And so he'd be able to connect them up with that. There was all kinds of fucking favors that were changed.
What do you mean? Scientists, that's such a like 2D caricature of scientists that like all they want in life is labs. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, well that's true. That's like what they wanted.
That's not. It's not what they wanted.
That's fucking what. Well, yeah. Look, dude. Yes. Everyone
Stephen
wants
Hawking
pussy.
just wants another lab. He just wants more labs. That's why you were hanging out with Epstein.
Stephen wanted pussy. There's no denying that. No, Stephen, absolutely. And
it's the other ones. It's the other scientists. What is this caricature of scientists you're painting right now? Like they don't have human desires, only labs. It's like
they do have human desires, obviously, but like, yes. Well, you know what? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised knowing some scientists that I know that they just don't get erections.
This is like saying like the janitors
an erection for a test tube.
The janitors that Jeffrey Epstein knew and was connected to only wanted like trash dumps and things like that. That's all they were interested in. Jeffrey Epstein knew how to weaponize their love for trash.
Deeper trash. Yeah. And that was part of the disclosure.
They all wanted pussy and they all wanted money and they all wanted power. That's the only thing any of these people wanted.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, everyone wants pussy, money, and power. Like, but there's like other favors that people want that they think will indirectly lead to pussy, money, and power, I suppose.
Yeah, like more labs.
More access to labs. More research funding. Like, I suppose that's a version of money.
That's still money. Yeah.
Still money. There was like basically what he was saying was like, you listen to secretaries talk and he's in the room and he's discussing these things. And he would say that some people would ring up and all they talk about is finance. And then other people would ring up and all they talk about is science. And he'd be able to reflect all of that. And he said that Donald Trump, every time he rang up, all they talked about was pussy. That was it. So that's what he was exceptional at.
Why is anyone surprised at that, by the way? Donald Trump has had... I mean, Bill Clinton is a pussy hound as well. We know that for sure. So again, there's like pretty big connections here. But Donald Trump is also a known hound for that kind of stuff. He was... there's so many quotes of him talking about the women at like the teen USA.
Yeah, he's a very horny man.
He's a very horny man. This is not up for debate. He likes pussy. And yeah, who doesn't? Again, but like, yeah, it's not surprising that this was their interest. This was Donald Trump's interest. This was Epstein's interest. And I think that Epstein, I don't know what argument you're making right now, but I do 100% believe that Epstein was primarily motivated by, again, pussy and money.
Well, Epstein definitely. Well, you know what? Do you think that it's possible that his main motivation was schmoozing?
No, I think that was just honestly, I think that schmoozing was a way for him to get more pussy and money.
Yeah, I suppose. And like schmoozing is just his natural talent, so he exploited it.
Yeah, and I think that there's still an argument to be made that he was still operating at the behest or the tacit approval of an intelligence agency, but they just realized that they had an asset that was extremely good at schmoozing, and he had interest that... Yeah, he was a super connector, and he had an interest that, connected with people, other powerful people were tacitly illegal things that they could use information on. So he was an agent, but he was really good at what he did.
Yeah, but I'd imagine that like a lot of the stuff that he has information on is just publicly embarrassing. I would imagine that the pedophile network, I'm still of the opinion that the pedophile network would probably be a lot smaller than what would just be the thing of just like a bunch of people that are implicated in Ponzi schemes and illegal financial activity and, have wives and shit that don't want the release of them fucking a bunch of prostitutes. Like,
I would have said that. I would have said that 4 years ago. I would have said that 100% 4 years ago that, the actual pedophile element is probably fairly small and all of the other stuff is just financial crime and fucking prostitutes and things like that. Now, I honestly don't know. I actually think that it might be way larger than anticipated, because if I was one of those wealthy people who had just like fucked a hooker behind my wife's back or something, and now I was at risk of being known in the Epstein files, which is now become synonymous with pedophilia, I would be coming out on my own saying, "Hey guys, I'm in there, but it's it's fucking hookers."
But they were off age. Yeah, I just cheated on my wife. It's fine. All right,
it's that. I'm not involved in the whole kid fucking stuff or anything like that. She was a of age hooker. Like I would be coming out there like that, but we haven't heard anything like that. We haven't heard. It's been tacit disapproval of even being in the files or things like that, basically. Or saying like I was only associated with Epstein, didn't know anything about him, and yet there's pictures of me in his drawer.
Do you think there's also you being involved in the Epstein files? You'd never be able to clear your name after that. That's it.
Not after
Even if
how
you were
the government
fucking prostitutes and whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, that's all you were doing, weren't you? And it's like, yeah, that's all I was doing. Yeah, you were.
Well, now. With how everything is shaken out, yeah, I mean, you can't trust anything to do with the files now. Obviously, I said this last episode. You can't trust.
No, and it's so interesting to me that they keep not even attempting to try and win back the public's trust. Wonder why.
You need to look at who is releasing what version of the files that we're currently seeing. If it comes from the Department of Justice, which is, of course, under the current administration, you can't trust it from the angle of Donald Trump being involved. But if you look at what the Democrats are releasing, obviously they have a political wedge to jam in there as well. So you can't trust what they're releasing. You can't trust what any of these people are releasing. And we have no clue on the scale of what even constitutes the files in the first place. They've just given us arbitrary numbers saying that there's hundreds of thousands of files and, they've just released 20,000. We don't know. We don't know the scale of this. We don't know anything. So what is there to trust? We have no faith in the administration or the political parties at this point, or the investigators, or the federal investigators, or anything. You don't have any trust in it. So how can you trust it?
So what do you do then? Because there's never going to be a point where people are going to be satisfied with this story.
No, I mean, no, there's not. There's never going to be a. I don't
it's
think
never going to happen, is it?
It's
going to be endlessly curious and endlessly, at the throat of whoever's in administrative power.
It's been politicized to the degree that if your most hated politician is, or your most hated public figure is, like files come out and it's him sitting next to Epstein, then I guess you could feel good about that angle of it. You could be like, yeah, he's totally a pedophile, whatever. With that, you could be happy about that. But at the end of the day, we are never going to get the full extent of this network, or the full extent of the crimes committed, or the full extent of who is connected at the end of the day. So I'm not going to find any personal satisfaction in any of this. Not that satisfaction is a weird word to use anyway, but I'm not going to feel comfortable with whatever they do release or whatever information does come out. Because as we can see, even in this little transparency day, how many questionable things stemmed from just this one event, just this one disclosure. And there's been multiple of those throughout the year where it's like, again, do you remember the original disclosure day where they had a bunch of Republican media figures, basically like online social media personalities, come out and they walked out of the White House with those binders full of so-called Epstein files, and they were all stuff that were already released. But yet here we are with 20,000 files of, Bill Clinton hanging out. Why was that never released, by the way, back then? Why were these files of Bill Clinton never released? They chose now to.
Look, I actually understand the argument that they were saying for that, which was that if you are doing investigations into who's a perpetrator and who's innocent, this is going to be very complicated and convoluted, and so you're not going to be releasing anybody and incriminating anybody and defaming people essentially by coming out with them. But then that was this Department of Justice's original logic for not doing this. So releasing the Bill Clinton photos immediately wipes away their own argument, which is incredible. Like every disclosure that they have weakens their already shitty argument to begin with. It's quite extraordinary that you wouldn't be able to remain consistent with it. Like they can't stop themselves from having a swipe at the DIMS. It's so in their DNA to go for that. Whereas it didn't work. None of this has ever worked. Really, I don't know how you make this problem go away if you're the Trump administration. I guess all you do is have the ability to shut up, which Donald Trump doesn't have. Because anytime anybody asks him anything, he goes on and bloviates for 5 minutes.
Well, I feel like he actually has learned on this specific factor, because like he was asked about it yesterday at like a White House dinner or something. He's like, I'm not going to talk about it and things like that. He's trying not to talk about it.
Yeah.
He's trying not to talk about it. I think he knows that that's the only strategy that works. Yeah. In this situation. But I feel like it's going to be sad if, and this is exactly what's going to happen, we're going to get a few disclosures. People are going to be very bored by what is released because they're not going to release any of the actually damaging, salacious things, of course. So people are going to just get bored of it, and then eventually they're just going to get beaten into boredom and the submission just by the amount of non-news that come out. I think they know how to weaponize the news and the media to basically, like school shootings, right? Like a school shooting happens now, and like within 30 minutes, everyone's forgotten about it. Just going to get to that degree, I think.
I suppose so. Still, this is, I think, the interesting aspect of Epstein, which is what we were discussing before. How the rich and powerful really conduct themselves. That is something that we are learning out of the Epstein files. And I do very much like the way that this is all being portrayed, is that the way that the elite interact with one another is really through favors. Like, when you think about like the middle class and what the middle class wants out of life, and what the middle class generally wants is to retire with good 401k, right? Like have like a good dental plan, have a good
do their work and eventually have enough of a social safety net basically to retire at a respectable age.
Yeah, that seems to be like their goals. Upper middle class, I suppose, is to have like a few investment properties and all that. Working class, I suppose, is to just make ends meet that's sort of the goals that you have in life. When you're elite and when your level of money and power well exceeds what you could ever really do with it, the whole thing seems to be favors. The whole system seems to be predicated on favors. And I suppose that's how things do get quite dark quite quickly, because you will get somebody like Jeffrey Epstein that comes in and realizes what's better than favors is sort of blackmail or extortion. That's a very good way of like sorry, go on.
What is the purpose of? I don't quite understand what the purpose of favors is in the ultra wealthy class when they can literally, basically, just pay for whatever they want. What favors are you talking about?
It's sort of just like the love of the game at some point. It's a bit like, elite families in the Middle Ages, I guess, intermarrying with one another so that they could have bigger claims over land and private armies
it's
and
like,
whatever.
Legislation kind of stuff or regulatory stuff, like, but they're still using their wealth. They're using monies to enact their favors, ultimately.
Still using money to enact their favors, yes, but it's kind of like at some point, your knowledge can only get you so far. As in, Jeffrey Epstein, if he was using, let's just say that he was like a genius investor and he was hired by one of the finance firms, that could really only get you to so far. That could only probably get you to being like a senior partner or something. The fact that he was able to leverage these rich and famous people off one another, that's what got him to this like stratospheric level of access. It was a different skill set, and it was the skill set that seems to be the most valued in those circles, which is sort of like networking and deals and that kind of shit.
Yeah, of course. That's the way that he got there. 100%. Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's how he got to that position. But I'm a bit confused as to what you mean by when he eventually did get to that prominent position. Like, where do the favors come in with there at that point?
You can trade off. You can trade off people for one another so that you can keep getting in, like, more and more into like inner circles. This is very much actually what Donald Trump did as well. As in, he came from a rich family. His dad was wealthy. His dad was a very successful real estate developer. And Donald Trump, to varying degrees, had that level of success. But it was more his lawyer that taught him how the world actually works. And so the way that he was able to move into that next level of making huge buildings is kind of figuring out where the pressure points were with legislators and saying, like, I know you want this, or, you don't want this to come out, so you're going to vote this way for it. This is how you get to that next point.
Yeah, okay. So
that's how you do it.
Again, I don't think it's the same thing then. Social favors in this sense, favors in this sense just means social blackmail. Like, they're not asking for a friendly favor like I would ask you for a friendly favor. It's a favor premeditated by the understanding that I know something about you, Jordan, that you wouldn't want released to the public, and you're going to do my so-called favor. Otherwise, that information is going to come out, which is, that's the understanding of how Epstein worked, right?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying is, like, somebody like Epstein, who's quite a dark figure, obviously, he's going to exploit that. Whereas if you're in the elite, maybe there'd be people that would be a bit too empathetic or have too much of a conscience to do that kind of stuff. So they're kind of just working on the deal of like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. Then you will get like actors in there that are kind of just like, I have these pictures of you and you will act accordingly.
I've turned around on this quite a bit. I don't think that you can get to that level while having any kind of like empathetic feelings or even like kind of like humanity. Like, you can't be, I don't think you can be a nice person and get to the levels of, Epstein and Donald Trump.
Well, Epstein and Donald Trump, I think, are just, great characters of everything that's wrong with that world. But something that was also very interesting was this guy that did this article where he rang up every single person in Jeffrey Epstein's phone book and had a chat to them. and talked about who they were. And what he found was a lot of people that are extremely wealthy or extremely powerful, they're kind of pretty normal human beings. Like, they have obvious flaws, and maybe they might be a bit boring, or maybe they might just be like a bit socially awkward, just like how normal people would be, but they somehow stumbled into controlling a third of the transcontinental shipping in America or something. Like, it kind of just happened through, I don't know, inheritance, or like a lucky break in a merger that happened. Or so these people do exist. Like, it's like kind of just like, really, they're quite pedestrian people generally when you get to that level. A lot of it is just by like happenstance and inheritance. There are people that kind of just are mega artists that, you know, get like a good break in terms of investment or something. Those people also exist, but they have these very human traits to them. And then you have people that are very sharky, like your Epsteins and your Donald Trumps, that are kind of obviously lacking some sort of normal thing that stops people from taking it that far. It's not in their head. They're quite the exception, and so they can really do damage in those circles because of how much wealth and power is concentrated in those circles. That's what I'm saying.
You've outlined two different cases there. Like, to get to that point on your own through your own skills and ambitions, you have to remove that level of humanity, though, like you said. Whereas the other people that you mentioned, the people more fitting normal kind of vibes, you even made the distinction there that they got lucky. Basically, they didn't necessarily do it through their own ambitions. You said that, like, in many ways they got there through mergers or, you know, nepotism or other things like that. Whereas the people that actually build and continue to amass wealth and stuff like that, like Trump and Epstein, I feel like they're so ambitious and driven that they remove all other kind of things that would hold them back. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, Trump and Epstein kind of took it to the next level in those circles. So there's like the elite circle, and then there's people in that kind of get to President of the United States, or Epstein, that sort of lived this like mega fantasy life of having unlimited money. I remember people talking about this, that like, you know, the image that people have in their head of your average billionaire or whatever owning an island, like, some of them do as a flex, but you really have to understand that is a massive flex even in billionaire circles, because it's like, how am I supposed to fucking like get the staff there? How am I supposed to get all of the groceries that I want? It's a desert island, and I'm going to have to set up my own water treatment plant, and it's like very...
It's a lot of work for some place. I'd probably spend like 3 weeks out of every year there as well.
Exactly, right? So even amongst these circles, what I'm saying is that like the elite, there's like all kinds of like members of it, I guess, but like these guys lived particularly cartoonish billionaire lives even amongst them. So it's kind of like they're the elite of the elite almost. And I guess that's how you get there.
Epstein, definitely. And we see that in the files disclosed across the last year. Like, I wouldn't say that he was being particularly secretive or sneaky about the actions that he was taking. Like, the files that have come out have shown, for example, giant collaboration networks that he created with other young women, where he would basically say, yes, bring me a girl, you get $200 for each girl that you bring me. Like, this wasn't operating as secretively as people would initially think. Like, it was just him and Ghislaine Maxwell coordinating with other, you know, networks or whatever. It was like literally crowdsourced to some degree, just taking other women off the streets and being like, yeah, now bring me more and you'll get paid for it. Like, they weren't being particularly secretive, so much so that, as we found out in the files disclosures this week, there was a complaint made about him back in like 1996 from a victim or from someone who knew that he had these inclinations that the FBI basically just completely ignored for whatever reason. I mean, we can talk about that if you want, but I definitely think that that's very suspicious that the FBI got this credible account, witness account testimony that Epstein was asking her to take photos of children in a swimming pool and
wanted
this
to
sell
back in the
pictures.
90s?
Yeah, this was back in the 90s, 96, I think.
Mm.
So the FBI knew about this as early as 1996, and they never followed up on that. That's pretty suspicious, I would say. But regardless, like a lot of this stuff was happening out in kind of the public almost. Like he wasn't being very coy about this. Like there are a lot of photos in here where he's very comfortable with it. There's photos of women with like Lolita quotes, the Vladimir Nabokov book, Lolita. Quotes from that book on like young girls' bodies that he's taking photos of. There's like random photo collages that the investigators found, which showed like images of cut out underage girls with captions like "Once upon a time there was a clueless little girl ... Like it's almost like a supervillain level of comfort with all of this kind of trafficking and sex crimes and things like that. And I'm just like, it has to, like, so many people are connected to this in such a comfortable level where it has to be widespread. He has to have some kind of power to feel this comfortable, like some level of power over law enforcement, for example, or the judicial system, to feel this comfortable with how outwardly presenting he was.
Well, when it comes to his first time that he was convicted for sex trafficking and how he got that incredible sweetheart deal.
The sweetheart deal, yeah.
Yeah. The investigative journalist that I was listening to was saying that was because of his relationship with Dershowitz. And Dershowitz was just able to command such a sweetheart deal for him. Purely because he is like a super lawyer. One of the greatest in the profession of all time. But again, I'm imagining that Epstein, it's the same thing, that there would be relationships with judges that he would be able to exploit. Because
in that situation, right, it doesn't even need to go that far. Epstein has power over Dershowitz, probably because Dershowitz has, he's implicated himself in something that Epstein knows about. Epstein has power over Dershowitz. And so, and then Dershowitz probably has power, like you said, over judges, for example. He probably knows things about those judges, or knows what they want and knows what buttons to push and what pressure points to, push on to make this just slide through. Like it's a chain, basically, at some point, if you know these powerful people.
God, it's such a strange world, isn't it? It's like they exist in our reality plane but don't at the same time.
Well, when you're that wealthy and powerful, yeah.
When you're that wealthy and powerful. I suppose Jeffrey Epstein it finally did come crashing down. I'd like to know why. Why did all of a sudden it happen?
Yeah, that's the question I often go back to as well. Like, it seems pretty damn obvious that he was being protected to some degree.
And then all of a sudden he wasn't.
It just wasn't, yeah. And I'm wondering why. Because there's no way that he operated for 20, 30 years among all these circles with this, again, this widespread comfort about it. And then one day it just buckled underneath him. I'm assuming it had to do with the fact that the information eventually got out through independent journalists, right? At some point, it got so widespread and they got so comfortable with it that once it did get out there through these independent journalists, they literally couldn't contain it anymore. And Epstein had to be a scapegoat, and Epstein was a scapegoat. He was killed in prison. He went to the grave. So I don't know. What do you think?
It's something to do with him being no longer useful. Absolutely. But why was he no longer useful?
He was burned. Like, if that's the case, if he's no longer useful, it's because he was burned. The independent journalists discovered that sweetheart deal and all that kind of stuff and put it back into the limelight, probably because of the political tensions during the 2016 period and things like that. So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe it was just a kind of like a perfect moment in the storm of politics that allowed for that kind of event to happen.
Yeah. And it keeps ricocheting, doesn't it? Like, man, I don't think that there was this much interest when JFK was assassinated. And maybe it's the fact that the internet exists and that's what keeps this going. You reckon it's that?
Yeah, it's just the fact that we're better able to organize, let's say.
Keep communicating it, yeah. But it does seem like that this has captured the world's attention. I don't think that.
I mean, how can it not? You got pictures of Michael Jackson up there now with Epstein. He knew everyone.
He knew everyone.
You should have seen my shock when Michael Jackson appeared in those photos. It's just crazy how well connected he was. And Michael Jackson, of course, he's got his own accusations levied against him for pedophilia. So, again, not the best connections.
No, but I'm sure Michael Jackson could source his own. I don't think that he was like part of it. Do you? It was probably just another thing of like he just met him. Maybe though.
Who knows?
Who the fuck knows? It's like
we'll never
so
know.
Redacted.
We'll never know. Again, the amount of redactions in here in this initial file disclosure is absolutely staggering. We're talking about, I think, 500 files in total. Maybe even more than that are just completely black pages. The entire grand jury New York document pertaining to Ghislaine Maxwell, just completely redacted, all 119 pages, just complete. Like, what's even the point of releasing that, you know?
I don't
just
know.
Complete black redactions. No clue.
Why did they release that?
I don't know.
That's a really good question.
To make it look like they're being transparent. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are some other images, some really slimy images as well. For example, there are pictures of important message notes left for Epstein, which read, quote, "I have a female for him," end quote. And yet these documents have the mobile number and name of the callers that left those messages for Epstein fully redacted, seemingly protecting the individual who was calling Epstein about having girls for him. So, like, they used the claim that they only redacted things that pertain to the victims and protected the victim's privacy. That's one specific occasion where this is a caller leaving a message for Epstein, basically saying, "Yo, I got one of the girls for you. I got a victim for you, a trafficked girl for you. Call me back." And yet the mobile number and the name of the caller are completely redacted as well. Don't know what's up with that. That seems really odd, right?
Mm.
Yeah,
man. I'd really like to know what the Trump administration was hoping from doing this.
Well, no, they got it. They got what they hoped for.
Which is?
From this, to appeal to their base. They knew this was an opportunity. For example, when the files were released on Disclosure Day or Transparency Day, whatever it's being called, the press secretary, Caroline Levitt or something like that, she posted on her social media account immediately retweeting the picture of Bill Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein with just the words "oh my" and shocked face and shit like that. They know how to appeal to their base. And then you got people of course in the comments in that base being like, finally the truth comes out. Things like that. Like, I'm trying to find some examples right now real quick. One sec. Yeah, so here's someone in that base, an unknown account with about 280k followers, who says, funny, 99% of the names in the Epstein files are raging liberals, totally backfiring big time. Like, that's the sentiment in the base. Like, they think that this is genuinely transparent. Like, it's just a coincidence that all of the files released by this administration currently pertain to
the libtards.
Big Democratic names. Yeah, it's totally not. Don't ignore all the Donald Trump files that have since disappeared from the website and then been put back up, and the fact that there's no Donald Trump files being released, which is the fact that there's no Donald Trump files in this disclosure is way more suspicious than if there were Donald Trump files in this disclosure. Like, with how closely connected Donald Trump has been proven to be with Epstein, like, there should have been files pertaining to him. And even if it's just flight logs or anything like that, he could just argue it as being, again, like, yeah, no, but we knew each other back at the time or whatever.
Exactly.
The fact that there's no files. From
now on, yeah, you just say, look, as you said before, I'm on record being a very horny man. Here's the proof of me being a very horny man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, when you're Donald Trump, you don't really have to worry about, like, reputation management, do you?
Not anymore, no.
No. But way beyond that.
Like, do you get what I mean, though, by the fact that there are no files pertaining to Donald Trump in this is, like, way more suspicious? Because it means, like...
So much more suspicious.
There's files being held back, clearly.
It's so silly.
Again...
Oh, my God. Like, yeah, like, I mean, yeah. But I don't even think that would be his base. I think that would just be people on that Twitter account, which, as we all know, Twitter is beyond a cesspool these days. So anybody there is like, you know, they are not normal. They're not human beings anymore.
No, they're not that. They're pretty much mostly bots, I'm pretty sure, from India.
Yeah, exactly.
All the times for some reason.
Yeah, it could just be a bot that said that. Finally, the truth comes out. That's what it is.
Again, I don't want people, like, it's so hard to talk about this because it has become so politicized, unfortunately. It's hard to talk about this in a way which seems unbiased. But what we're talking about today is the fact that Donald Trump or his administration released these files. So they're the ones with the inherent bias in this release that you have to talk about. But again, it literally, like, I'm saying this directly, it is both sides. We know that. It's powerful people across all sides of the aisle, across all lines of thinking, etc., that are going to, that I can guarantee you there are just, you know, that there's evidence in there probably that pertains to both sides of the aisle. I'm not saying that this is all Donald Trump. I'm saying that there's an issue with these people, these fucking idiots on Twitter, basically being like, well, see, it's all Democrats. Because it's not. We know it's not. That's so stupid. You are so stupid if you believe that. Just like you're so stupid if you believe that it's just Republicans, all right? Like, powerful people operate on a different level. The 1%, the 1% of Democrats and the 1% of Republicans who are, you know, in that 1% power level, let's say the 1% wealth level, they have way more in common with each other than any of them have with us. All right. So, they're absolutely all in there to some degree.
Honestly, like, look, every single time that there is anything that brings light to Jeffrey Epstein, it becomes more mysterious. He has to be the true international man of intrigue. He really did end up living up to that. Remember that 60s James Bond-esque book that he apparently loved that was about some big international spy agency that used to train kids to have sex with or something?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He really did live his life by that book. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that. But is that a book that he loved?
He loved this book, and apparently he recommended that a bunch of people read it. And apparently it was like it was just like, what the fuck is this book? Like, it was real 60s psychedelic, like, what is going on? But the upshot of it was that it was about some spy agency that was playing off the Russians and the Americans to, I don't know, make a base on the moon or something like that. And, there was a trained elite corps of pedophile girls that they justified having sex with. I can't remember. It was very 60s. He lived that.
That is very 60s.
He lived that. And it was like just this international man of mystery James Bond figure that was fucking...
James Bond figure / pedophile.
Yeah. James Bond if he was a pedo. Like, if the Bond girl was a girl. That's what it was.
I do, just to wrap this up, I do like... one of the big things that came out of Transparency Day was, again, those 16 files that went missing, and the department, of course, coming out and insisting that it's only because they needed to redact information to protect the victims. They needed to make sure that that was being done. If that's the case, and the photo, the photos and files of Donald Trump haven't since been released, all the files pertaining to Donald Trump, and the only reason they haven't been released is because they need to protect the information that surrounds victims. Is the insinuation there that Trump is only involved in files that also contain victims? Is that the insinuation? I mean, it's kind of a self-report.
Really, they're kind of, exactly.
Kind of is a self-report when you think about it.
That's a very good, man, that is a very good closing statement. You're right.
I don't know.
Thought about that before.
Regardless, I'm losing hope. I never really had hope that we'd find all the information here, of course, but with how, again, politicized this has become and how obviously infected the governmental agencies are, and how protective they are being about this, and how slimy and, protective, again, they are being about all of these files. I don't have much hope that we are going to find the full extent of this. I would love to be proven wrong, obviously, but again, I don't even know how we do that. How we know for sure at the end of the day, because the faith and the trust is gone. Like there is none. So I don't know how. At the very
least, they do need to disclose a network of pedophiles.
Yeah, but
that's the way that you get it.
How do you do that? You obviously use scapegoats
without
in that situation.
Unraveling the whole thing.
Without unraveling, because then those people, the scapegoats, are going to, of course, come out and be like, well, actually, it's also them. So I feel like everyone involved in, if there is a network, and I believe that there is, everyone involved in the network is probably on edge a lot about this, because they're like, are we going to be used as a scapegoat? Like, or are we going to be assassinated? Like, what's going to happen? So who knows? But all that we can say is that this Epstein Transparency Day did not live up to the name. I think that can be confirmed. They did break the law.
It was all hype.
They did break the law to the letter of what the legislation that was introduced. They broke that law. I mean, that's 100% they broke it. They didn't release all the files, and they also didn't confirm to Congress a summary of redactions made, as well as a list of officials and politically exposed individuals named. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Hopefully Congress doesn't back down from a fight in that situation and pushes back. But of course, you never know.
You never do you? You never do. I was honestly quite surprised that you did have people pushing for disclosure in Congress. But I suppose, they're not really part of the elite people that are in Congress. There'd be a few of them that are, but most of them would just be on their, $100,000 a year salary or whatever.
Well, a lot of them would also still feel pressured from their specific political parties to vote in certain ways. So even if they're just making $100,000, I don't believe that. I believe everyone in Congress is probably pretty financially well off given their positions. But at the same time, even if they're not directly involved in the victimization or the continuation of the pedophile network, I still think that they'd be easily pressured by those who are in that situation.
Yes.
So,
that sounds about right.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this after reports, or whatever the hell what we're calling this little bonus series. This one is public, but the rest will be private on our official.men website. You can head on over there, 7-day free trial. Sign up if you want to hear extra Red Thread content each week, just like this. That's right, we're doubling the workload basically, so feel free. I mean, this is more conversational, so come check that out at official.men. Again, 7-day free trial. It's the best place to watch all of our content ad-free. Go sign up now, and we'll see you over there. We'll interact with you or something, I don't know. Go over there. Bye.